Hello everyone, welcome back to the Layman Photographer channel. If you are new here, then let me tell you, I am Amit, your host, and I am going to share you 10 simple mobile photography tips that will instantly boost your photography game, whether you are using an Android phone or an iOS phone. These tips will definitely help you to get your desired result, whether you are an amateur, a beginner, or an advanced photographer. So without wasting any much time, let's dive in. So let's start with the tip number 1. Always clean your lens before the actual shoot process. Well, this might sound very basic, but a smudge or a dirty lens will definitely affect your picture quality. Whenever you clean your lenses, there will be chances of getting sharper and cleaner images. Just give it a try and you will definitely notice the results before wiping the dirt and after wiping the dirt. Tip number 2 is focus and exposure lock. Well, this is not a new technique in smartphones to have a focus and exposure lock, but if you use this technique, you will definitely be amazed by the results. Exposure and focus locks are the techniques used to compensate the overall exposure and without getting a blurry images. Focus lock will eventually focus the desired area you want to lock the focus on. And exposure will definitely help you to get a balanced and perfect exposure. What you have to do is just tap on the desired area where you want to have your subject in focus and adjust the overall exposure by swiping up or down to get the perfect exposure level. Tip number 3 is use natural light. So always try to get yourself out of your comfort zone and try the different lightings of the nature. That means you can start shooting at the golden hours, the sunset time, or the midday, or in fact in the monsoon at the overcast day. You can always use windows light if you want to shoot portraits, or like me, if you are a landscape photographer, you can experiment on any natural lights. Then you will be getting a fine photo of the desired subject you want to click the photo of. If you are a fan of black and white portraits, then you must use windows light. Try to position your subject just an angle or a right angle from the window and place the subject over there, and you can get dramatic portrait photos of your subject. Try to avoid fill-in flash that we usually tend to use those flashes in the night area or where there is not ample amount of light. So try to avoid using the built-in flash because it will make your photo very unflattering and those will not look actually better. Tip number 4 is use the rule of thirds. Well, these days all the iOS and Android phones have a feature called grid lines on. Well, this is basically the same as rule of thirds in traditional or mirrorless cameras. It will eventually break the entire frame into 9 equal parts with 2 vertical lines and 2 horizontal lines, giving you 4 intersection points. It will help you to align your subject off center for more interesting and dynamic compositions. There is another feature in a smartphone available in all the Androids and iOS phones called electronic virtual horizon. Basically, it will help you to balance your entire frame horizontally or vertically, like we tend to use in landscape photography, where I try to make everything straight in terms of horizontal and vertical compositions. And eventually, following these simple rules will definitely elevate your photography game. Tip number 5, which is the most important one, try to shoot in HDR mode or try to shoot in RAW format. Well, let me tell you about the HDR mode first. HDR means high dynamic range. It will actually brighten up your shadow area and lower the highlight area, giving you a balanced exposure photo. And in raw mode, it will actually capture all the informations in the highlights and the shadows and the midtones area. And raw format will be helpful to those who actually try to experiment in the post-production part, like in Lightroom or Snapseed or any other editing applications, to give it a personal style of editing. If you are shooting in HDR mode, as I said, it will actually brighten your shadows and control over highlight area. So basically this kind of shoot will be helpful in landscapes or streets, because sometimes we tend to shoot against the sun, and that will be very hard to retain the highlights. So HDR mode will eventually help you to get a perfect balanced shot, but it will give you in a HIF format or JPEG, which is of course a destructible format. So if you have a little bit knowledge about post-production in Snapseed or Adobe Lightroom, then you can shoot in RAW to get more finer details and exposure levels. Tip number 6 is never try to digital zoom. Try to use always the native lenses available in your smartphones. For example, if I am using an iOS or Apple phones, like I use Apple iPhone 15 Pro Max. Here I get 3 lenses at a 13mm wider perspective, at a 24mm and at a 120mm. With these native lenses only you can get your best shot. Using digital zoom will eventually break down your photos. So try to shoot in RAW, and using these native lenses only you get the best results. You can always go as close to the subject for a better result, or you can crop in the post-production to get your desired result. But never use digital zoom, because it will eventually ruin your photo. Tip number 7 is use portrait mode for those blurry backgrounds. If you are a fan of portraits or taking portraits and want those blurry backgrounds or so-called bouquets, then you must use the inbuilt live mode or the portrait modes. These portrait modes help you to isolate your subject and clean your background or blur your background, giving it like a shot taken with a camera with a wider aperture lens. Tip number 8 is try to experiment with your angles. Shooting straight from the camera to a direct eye level will give you sometimes a flatter photo or not so called photograph. Try to take shots from below angle or above the subject to get a more realistic perspective and a unique angle of view, just like I do in landscapes when I place some kind of subjects or rocks while doing long exposure photography to get a different perspective. And sometimes I use a very top angle to get a feel of wider perspective. So always try to use different angles to get a unique perspective in your photos. Tip number 9 is post-production part. After having the right photograph or the desired photograph you have wanted, now it's time to put your signature style in your photos. Try to use Lightroom or Snapseed or any other application of your choice in your mobile to give it a final touch to your photos. Adjust the exposure, shadows, or control the highlights if you take the photos in RAW to get the final desired result. And one more important thing, try to control the contrast, saturation and luminance level, because overdoing it might kill the photo. The final tip of this video is keep practicing, because there is an old saying that practice makes a man perfect, whether you are a man or a woman, but practice will definitely help you to get your desired shot to the next level. Use these points in your next photography journey and try to apply all the things that I have mentioned you to get your final result, and you will see that your style of photography will be improving day by day, and it will definitely help you to get your desired result. Whether you are using an Android or iOS, these tips will definitely help you to improve your photography game. If you find this video helpful, try to share with your friends in need, or try to share this video among your friends and family members who want to pursue their career in photography. If you are new here, try to subscribe my channel, hit the bell button to get all the notifications about my upcoming videos. So it's your Layman Photographer Amit signing off, and take care.